Alright, so now we are going to talk about multiplying positive and negative integers. And these are a couple rules that if you know these rules, it makes it very easy. But I'm going to go ahead and show you why each rule um, comes up with the answer that it does. So the first, if you have the signs that are the same, so a positive times a positive or a negative times a negative, the answer is always going to be positive. That makes sense with positive times a positive. Negative times a negative gets tricky, but I'll show you why in a couple of minutes. And when the signs are different, positive times a negative or negative times a positive, the answer is always going to be negative. So let's go, let me show you using a number line. Okay, first, the signs are different. Positive plus times a negative or a negative times a positive. The answer is negative. So I'm going to use some number lines here. So the first number is going to be the way the line faces and how long it is. So if it's a positive number, it's going to be facing to the right. If it's a negative number, it's going to be facing to the left. And the second number tells us if we're going to move that arrow forwards or backwards. Okay, so positive, we're going to move it forwards. Negative, we're going to move it backwards. So this first one is 4. Now it's a positive 4, so my line is going to be 4 units long, and it's going to the right. But since it's times a negative 2, we're going to do move it backwards 2 times. So we're going to move it backwards once and backwards twice. And that line basically ends up right here on a negative 8. Okay, ends up in the negative side of the number line. So 4 times a negative 2 is a negative 8. This time I'm going a negative 3 times 2. So I know that my line is going to be, it's a negative, so it's going to go to the left, and it's going to be 3 units long. Okay, to the left, it's 3 units long. And since I'm multiplying it by a positive 2, that line's going to go forward 2 times. So there's 1 time, and there's 2 times. That line is going forward. Even though it's going to the negative, it's moving forward. It's moving along that space. And look where we end. We end right here at a negative 6. So when the first number was negative or the second number was negative, the answer when I work it out with my number lines is always going to end up in on the negative side of the number line. So that's why when you have different signs, positive times a negative or negative times a positive, the answer is always negative. Okay, now when the signs are the same, the answer is always positive. So 3 times 3, these are both positive. My line is going to go to the right-hand side because it's positive. I know it's going to be 3 units long. Okay, so as you see, it's going to the right, and it's 3 units long. And I'm going to do it 3 times moving forward. I'm going to go forward 3 times. So there's 2 times. There's 3 times. And you see my number line ends on the 9. Boom. It's moving forward. Starting from the 0, it's moving forward 3 places and ends on the 9. Okay, it's positive. The signs are both positive. The signs of the beginning of both numbers would be positive, but in that case we don't have to put them. And so since they're both positive numbers, the answer is positive. Last one I'm going to show you, the one that can be tricky, is a negative 3 times a negative 2. Okay, now by this rule, we know that a negative times a negative, the answer is going to be positive. Well, let me show you why. Okay, first, if I have a negative number, okay, so I know it's going to be pointing to the left, and it's going to be 3 units long. Okay, 3 units long. Oops. But I need to move it backwards 2 times because I have a negative second number that I'm multiplying it by. I'm a negative factor of my second one, so I need to multiply it. I need to move that line backwards 2 places. So starting from 0, I move it backwards once. And I move it backwards twice. I'm going to make that line a little longer. Boom. See, I moved it back. It was moving backwards each time. And look, it stopped on the positive 6. Okay. since I moved it backwards twice. Okay, so it was a -3, so it's pointing to the left, to the negative direction, and it's 3 units long, but we're moving it backwards 2 times. Boom. So it ends up at the +6. Okay? The rules for division are exactly the same. When you have two of the same types of numbers, 2 positives or 2 negatives, the answer is going to be positive. If you have a positive and a negative, or a negative and a positive where the signs are different, the answer is always going to be negative.